Life doesn't always work out the way we plan. That's why developing your ability to surrender can help you cope. Stay tuned. I am Gloria Grace Rand, founder of The Love Method and author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Live, Love, Engage: How to Stop Doubting Yourself and Start Being Yourself. In this podcast, we share practical advice from a spiritual perspective on how to live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically, so you can create a life and business with more impact, influence, and income. Welcome to Live, Love, Engage. Namaste. So I am delighted to be with you today, and it's interesting because today's topic is about surrendering. So I am surrendering to the fact that my guest is not here. And I really had hoped that she was going to be here, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure what happened today. So if you are new and just joining us, I am Gloria Grace, the Light Messenger, and I help female entrepreneurs release negative thoughts like self-doubt that are keeping you from leading the life you want to live, and helping you then to be able to, once you've released them, to grow a business that aligns with your soul's purpose. So our guest today, I was really looking forward to talking to because I've been doing a lot of research on her, and she's a phenomenal woman. But I'm not even going to go ahead and say her name because, for whatever reason, if she happens to show up while we're in the middle, great. If not, I guess you're going to have me today. And that's what happens sometimes when you plan things, and I think that's what one of the things, like I said, our topic today was about surrendering. So I just decided to surrender to the fact that my guest isn't here. And that's what we have to do sometimes when we have, great plans that come about, and, we make plans, and then sometimes things don't quite turn out like we planned. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get all upset, and are you going to fuss and raise your blood pressure and get stressed out? Or are you going to surrender? And I don't mean give up. Sometimes people hear that term and they think, surrender, like when you're in a conflict and in a war, and the people surrender, put their arms up and say, I give up, I give up. Well, surrendering to me is a bit of that giving up, but it's not about just throwing in the towel and walking away. Instead, it's about letting go and letting God, which is actually the first pillar in the Love Method that I teach and that I wrote about in my book, Live, Love, Engage, the same name as this podcast. So to surrender is to allow. It's to let nature take its course, was the first thing that came to mind. And I guess that's, in a way, it's true. It's about letting go of expectations. Because again, when you do have a lot of expectations, that can set you up for disappointment big time when things don't turn out the way that you had planned or you had hoped for. How do we do this? You're probably wondering. Well, sure, Gloria, it sounds easy to do. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to surrender and let go. Yeah, right. It's simple, but it's not easy. I will grant you that, because it's still something that I grapple with. Oh, I like that word, grapple with, from time to time. I've gotten better at it. And that's the thing, is that there is always room for improvement. We can always get better at things, and we can learn and adjust, and then something else will come up, and then we have to learn and adjust from that again. But life is this wonderful, complex, easy at times, challenging at times journey that we all get to experience for a certain amount of time. We don't know how much time we're given. So when things happen that we don't plan for, things go awry, and we have to surrender, we have to let go. One of the good things to do, and I know I've even had podcast guests on before who've talked about this, is to stop and breathe. In fact, I even have a little note. I have a little note on my desk that said, "Stop, breathe, ask for help." And it's a reminder to me because, as I said, sometimes I need those reminders. I'm not perfect. I'm better than I was last year. I'm better than I was 5 years ago. I'm way better than I was 20 years ago. And I'm still human. And I still will fall back into old habits from time to time, and I will fall back into coping mechanisms that have served me to a point, I will say. They get me through, but they're more of the short-term gratification type of coping mechanism. They're not that long-term solution that is better, I would say. And I'm getting there. So again, when you're faced with something where you've got no control over it, you don't know what to do, stop, breathe. And there's scientific reasoning for this because what it does, by taking a deep breath, letting it go, it allows your brain time to get out of that primitive brain and go back into your, I guess it's the prefrontal cortex, I believe, that where we can start to think more logically instead of reacting from fear or, the fight or flight type response that is that primitive response that we have. So stopping, pausing, breathing, and saying, okay, what am I going to do? And then what I would add is to then, as you're stopping and breathing, is to just take a moment to go within and check in with your heart and say, hey, what can I do? What is my course of action right now? What is the way through? And then pause some more and just give yourself time, give your higher self time to speak to you. And if it doesn't happen right away, if you've got a moment, maybe start journaling. I have gotten back to my journaling practice and it is so helpful. I follow the method that Julia Cameron, I believe that's her name. She's the author of the book, The Artist Way, which I have not read except for the first chapter. Maybe the second chapter, and then I wound up putting it up. But the first chapter, she talks about morning pages, about writing nonstop, don't thinking about it, but just writing like 3 pages. And so I've got one of these little composition notebooks right now that I'm using. I've used a bunch of different journals in the past, but right now I'm using a composition notebook, and I will meditate in the morning first, and then I will sit down and pull out my journal and I just write. And some days I say, I don't know what I'm going to write about today. I don't know what I'm going to write about. I have no idea, but I know I need to do this practice because it's good for me. And so I'm just going to keep on writing and hope that my higher self will eventually come up with some ideas for me. And oh, yes, let's see. So today I've got to do my podcast and I'm hoping that my guest will come. You get the picture? Eventually, by just keeping that pencil or pen moving across the page, I'm going to say 8 times out of 10, suddenly you will start having things will come to your mind, things, and it may be mundane things about things that you want to do that day, or maybe it will be suddenly you might have an inspiration or about a problem that you were facing, and suddenly the idea, the solution comes into your head, and you're like, ah, yay, yeah, that's what I wanted to, that's what I can do. This is perfect. This is awesome. But you've got to give yourself that time to keep writing your way through it in order for that to happen. And I will tell you, that's why I'm saying 8 out of 10 times. It's that 80-20 rule. 20% of the time, I might still be at the end of my 3 pages going, well, that was pretty much of a fruitless endeavor this morning, but oh, I'm at the end of the 3rd page. Yay, I can stop. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Oh, which brings me to another idea. Another tip for what I do when I don't know what to write about. I'll start a gratitude practice right there. I'll start thinking of things that I am grateful for. And boy, I can get into a great run of like filling up at least a page of different things that I'm grateful for. So if you don't have a gratitude practice already, that is a really good way to incorporate it into your daily life, is to do it during your journaling time. And if you want more information about that, go back in and check whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on, you're listening. You can watch it on YouTube, but you can also listen on your favorite podcast platform, and you will see a while back I did an episode about gratitude and how it can help you in your business. So those are the things that can help you to surrender. And for those of you who are watching, you may see me looking down from time to time. I'm looking at, on my computer, I have taped to my laptop, I've got a little fortune cookie message. And I loved this message and I saved it. And I'm going to read it to you because I think it's also appropriate for today's topic. It says, one of the best things to do sometimes is simply to be. And that's what happens when we surrender. We're allowing ourselves that opportunity to just be present in the moment and see what happens. So unfortunately, our guest did not show up today, and that happens sometimes. What are you going to do? You go with the flow, and that's okay. I'm glad that I had an opportunity to chat with you today. And maybe it's because the universe decided that for whatever reason, I was called to talk about this subject today, and I don't have a problem with that. And I'll just share one other thing about letting go and letting God and surrendering. And oh, I know the other part of that, though. Now that I think about it, the other part is love. Messaging that my internet connection is not as strong as it should be either today. So, oh, it's one of those fun days. Anyway, I believe how it can open you up to more love is because when you're allowing yourself that grace to surrender, to let go, it gives you an opportunity to become more present with yourself so that you can connect with your higher self and be able to love yourself more. I guess that's pretty much about it, I think, in a nutshell. So today's episode is going to be a little shorter than I normally do, and that's okay. But I am going to share one thing with you before we end, because when I do solo episodes, I like to share a gift that I've been able to share with people, which is something called the gift of light language. And it is a sound healing modality, or at least it's a healing modality. It is something that people do in different ways. I speak it, I sing it. I also sometimes will use my hands and sign it. There are also people who will write light language. And I lost my train of thought. So let me pause for a moment. Let me surrender and figure out where I was going with this train of thought. Oh yes. Okay. So a few years ago now, I was able to start being able to do this. And what it is a method of connecting with your higher self, connecting with other multi dimensions, and being able to then transmit messages which are not something that your logical brain can understand, but it is something that your heart understands. And so it's really a methodology. Methodology? No, it's a modality. That's the word I want. It's a modality that speaks to your heart. It's a healing, very healing modality. So, what I'm going to do today before we end this episode is I want to share with you a light language to help you be able to surrender in the circumstances where it's required, and to allow you that opportunity to let go and let God, source, the universe, however you refer to it, maybe if you just want to call it your higher self, how you can connect with your higher self and allow inspiration to come through. So if you are listening to this while you are driving a car, I would encourage you to come back and listen to it later, because I find that it's much more powerful if you can really be present, if you can stop, sit down somewhere, put your feet on the ground, close your eyes, and just set the intention. And this is what I always do: is I always set the intention that the message that comes through will be for my soul's highest good. And obviously it's for today, it's for your soul's highest good. So I encourage you to set that intention as well. And again, I'm asking that, yeah, that the message today is something that will help all of us to remember that it's okay to let go of expectations, to surrender, and to just be, to be present in the moment. O no kia toe, kaya toe takiha, kaso yako, kagia no kue kasikaye, kofushi tokuya, hekaya no kui, kosokuya no keia tohu, ekayo kasoshu, ekanaki, toe toko, tasoyo kayo tu, soshia, kuano. Hope you enjoyed that a little taste of light language. And I will let you know that if you would ever like to have a more personalized version of that, something that's really specific to you, I do offer an introductory light language session, a 15-minute one. And this way it gives you a chance to uh, get a little bit more of, like I said, a little bit fuller taste of what light language is. And we can perhaps address something specific to you, a challenge that's going on with you. So if you are interested in that, I will have that in the show notes. You can go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/ capital L, capital L, capital T, and then lowercase RIAL. So it's basically LL trial. That's why I say I'll have it in the show notes for you. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, you will be able to get that information there as well. So I think that is going to do it for this edition of Live, Love, Engage. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you received some value out of today's episode, I hope that you will subscribe to us at Gloria Grace Rand on YouTube, and of course on all the wonderful major podcast platforms. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on all these lovely places. So hope you are subscribed and share this with a friend as well. What the heck, right? Yeah. All right. I think I did my lovely spiel for today. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I do have a guest plan, but I'm not even going to go into promoting her. So you're just going to be surprised, but I know it's going to be awesome. So until then, go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.